All right, take two, because my boy called me. Yeah, that seems like a total go. Yeah. So this is why you might not feel safe, okay? And I have adopted this and feel so much safer, so much safer. And really, not even just more safer, because there's still a lot of unsafeness in me, but a lot less resistance to life, okay? Just being able to like turn life into a game of school. That's kind of my journey. That's kind of my mission is you know, I think this is the best education. I don't think you can get a better education than life. You know, so how can we turn life into school? You know, and it's like, well, let's learn the rules. Let's learn how to play the game, right? And this is a perception I would invite you guys to adopt and try on, because it will melt, absolutely melt like butter, resistance to the present, okay? Which, as a consequence, as an effect, you'll, damn, people are just blowing me up today. You'll, focus. What did I say? As a consequence, you'll be more present. There we go. Good job recalling that, Paul. But basically, you're facing resistance because there's a lack of, however you want to define this word, trust, faith, and it goes something like this, right? You will always be resistant to what life is giving you because you are under the impression that it's not what you want. Okay? Now, once you realize that life is giving you what you need because it knows what you want, and it has to give you what you need so that you can evolve and become the evolution of you, the version of you, the iteration of you that can sustain what you want, then you will be able to take whatever circumstance you are going through, whatever relationship you're in, and you will be able to evolve, okay? Some relationships you might transcend, you might evolve out of, which is okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, one thing that, you know, a lot of, what I see a lot of people in this space, they'll try to determine the timeline of other people. And it's just like, that just creates so much resistance. And I'm just like, nah, like, I'm just going to keep evolving my timeline. And, you know, the people will come as I advertise it. You know, I'll talk to friends, I'll speak about it. You know, I'm not going to sell them on it. I'll just make them aware of it. And then the ones that are ready to come with me, they'll come with me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to force people, you know, because I can accept where someone's at, you know, because I can now accept where I'm at, right? But it started with me, okay? So understand that life is giving you everything you need in the now, in the moment, where you're at, so that you can get to where you want to go, but you're missing it. And because you're missing it, you're not able to get to where you want to go. Because to get to where you want to go, you have to accept what life is giving you, because life is giving you what you need because it knows what you want. And it knows that if you want this, you have to go through this need. So that once you evolve this need, you'll be able to sustain and get what you want, right? So it's like, we're not smarter than life. And I subconsciously thought that. You know, I don't think I did, but it's like when you don't trust it, you almost imply. You know what I'm saying? Like you trust your mom, you trust your dad, you know? Trust life. Because life is your mom and your dad. You know, if you want to get religious, spiritual, whatever. You know, I am currently operating under the belief that, you know, I was going to name this, you know, youniverse or whatever with Y-O-U. And I had to look up what that word meant first, because I was like, why do people keep having this play on words? What does this mean? Why do they put a Y-O in front of universe, you know? And the uni I think means one, is what it said. And then the verse is like to turn, turned into, turning in or whatever, right? So turning into one, right? And then it went even, I think, past that. I forgot exactly what it was. You know, I've heard people say it. I just never really looked into it because I never really cared. Because my whole thing is, I think a lot of people will put on this mask, a lot of egos, not the people. A lot of people's egos will put on this mask of like spirituality and I think you can, a very smart ego, which is, it's very obvious to me now, that it's just it's not a bunch of baloney, but the people parading it those egos are a bunch of baloney. So I try to keep myself out of those spaces. I'd rather just embody it than talk about it. So that's kind of my practice. So I don't really care what you say. I care about what you do, what you are, what you be. Okay. And it doesn't matter what words and what linguistics that you've, studied and learned and, repeated. I'll be able to see, right? I'll be able to see, get into a relationship, build a business. I'll see how you deal with triggers. I'll see how you deal with life, right? So that's kind of more what I'm focused on. Anyways, so that whole universe thing, to turn into one, and it's like you are the universe. Like there is no one or whatever it was saying. I don't even remember. And I can even recognize the trigger that's coming up in me just speaking about it, because I hate speaking about that shit. But anyways, understand that life is giving you everything you fucking need right here, right now to get to where you want to go. And just assume that it knows where you want to go, right? And I was on the phone with the client, my best friend, it's almost like if you want to get spiritual about it, or religious about it, like God. I don't believe in the whole, I don't believe in the mainstream story. I do believe Jesus was a real person, 100%. But I think it was more so him about bringing the subconscious into the conscious, him getting to know himself, him becoming an enlightened figure and being, like Buddha. I believe in Buddha, I believe in Jesus. I just don't believe in the main story about Jesus where, he is the one. I think we're all the one. I think, so like when they say he's the only son of God, it's like, I think we're all the son of God. I think we're all the daughter of God, So, anyways, belief aside, you can kind of look at life as a father, right? As God, right? And then we're just God in human form inside this container. And it's almost like, just look at a relationship between a father and a son. The father knows what the son needs. The son does not know, right? And the son wants what the son wants, but the father knows what the son needs. And if the father always just gave the son what the son wants, we've seen how that turns out, right? It usually isn't a beneficial situation for either party, right? And you could even go as far as saying it would almost be negligent of the father to do that, because understanding what, understanding how it will, have the son turn out. So it's almost like you want to look at life as your father, or as your mother, or as God, or as the universe, whatever you want to call it is kind of irrelevant, the label you want to put on it. The law, that's implied remains the same, which is it has your best interest at heart. More than you might think it does. More than you know it does. And when you can truly understand this, it's almost like a peace, a serenity, a presence will be revealed. That it's like, wow, I have been trying to outsmart life. I've been thinking that I know better than life. That, and it's just like this sense of trust, this sense of faith, right? However you want to call it. This sense of peace that everything that is happening is supposed to happen, right? I'm not a big mantra guy in the sense like I am rich, I am wealthy, I am powerful. And I'm not a big mantra guy to begin with at all, because I think really what we all want is the dissolution of the story that we're telling ourselves because of the perception we've created some time ago. And then we're telling ourselves this story about ourselves or about the world or whatever. That's just not true. And then we're operating from that, literally operating from that. If you could look at it as a software program, it is quite literally running your software and hardware, right? And it's very much affecting your hardware. Regardless of the story, good or bad, it affects the hardware. And what was I saying? Yes, just trusting. And more of like, I like the word surrender, because it is, to me, surrender means relinquishing all control. And to me, that's where the magic and beauty of life. I would actually even argue you're not even living. You're in constant friction with living. You're in a constant friction with life. There is no state of ease. There is only a state of dis-ease. And it is to me hell. Right? If we want to get religious and spiritual again. I don't like either of those words. I'm under, from my experience, that hell is here. Heaven is here, And I've lived in both. I've lived in hell for 29 years, and, so that's kind of my, what was it? AD? What was it? What is it? AD, BC, whatever, I don't even fucking know. But that's kind of like my timeline, right? So IH, in hell, in heaven. So I was 29 years IH, and now I'm going to be, however long I'm going to live for in the new IH, in heaven. And really, it's very beautiful, and I'm learning to just surrender and understand. In a mantra, that's what I was talking about, the mantras, right? I'm just not a big mantra guy because I feel like if you're just saying a positive story over a negative story, that doesn't get rid of the negative story, right? And it's just like, I think the only reason you're telling yourself a positive story is because you're telling yourself a negative story, right? I think mantras are an effect of a subconscious restraint that people are trying to remove, and that's just not how you remove them, from my experience, right? But a mantra that I do love to say, right? Because if we're talking about resistance, you can understand that, and that too can decrease or eliminate resistance. And a mantra that you can use to also, add on to this is I chose this. Because where in life does resistance exist? It exists when we're like, oh, we don't want this, right? There's two sides of suffering, okay? There's things that you want that you don't have, and that is one side of the coin of suffering. And there are things that you don't want that you do have, and that too is another side of suffering. And I think when you can truly embody and understand and grasp this and really get it, you become a very powerful being in the most beautiful way, because you stop resisting. And that to me is where presence in life begins, because I would assert that you're not living if you're resisting, you're surviving. You're in a state of fight or flight because you're under the assumption that I did not choose this. I don't want this, and I have it. Or I do want this, and I don't have it. And now it's just like, how can I get to a place to where I want everything I do have, and I don't want anything I don't have? Frictionless, right? And that's where magic's going to happen. And to me, that's just realizing that everything I have it because I chose to have it. And everything I don't have because I chose not to have it. Because I'm here to learn, I'm here to learn something. So, yeah. So I my girlfriend will say something to me, and I'll be like, I chose for her to say this to me. I was on the phone with her yesterday, and And I was actually looking in this direction. She's like, what are you thinking about? And I was like, wow. And I was thinking about something she didn't want to hear because it was going to hurt her, and it did hurt her. And I was like, why the fuck did she ask me that in that fucking moment? Like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuckity fucking fuck? Like, why the fuck did she ask me that? Because now I'm not going to not tell her. She doesn't like it when I'm not honest with her. She doesn't like it when I don't tell her the truth. So I'm going to tell her the truth. And I told her the truth, and truth hurt her. And I was like, why the fuck? You know, and emotions came up in me, and I was like, oh, I chose this. I chose this. I chose for her to say that. I chose for me to look there in that moment. I chose for me to have that thought. I chose for me to have this conversation. I chose for her to react the way she's reacting. I chose for me to, right? I chose everything. Because where in life does resistance not exist? In the things that you choose. So if I can eventually get to the point, the perception, the angle in which I relate to myself and operate from, which is I chose everything, then I think a new reality is going to open up for you. And as I say this, a lot of things come up for me because it can be very painful. Because if you look back on some things that happened to you, it can be very, very challenging, to say the least, to go to that moment that already happened and say, I chose this. And it can bring up a lot. And that a lot that is brought up, I will even claim that I chose that. So I'm just constantly just moving through life and just operating from the perspective that I chose this. I chose for this girl to say that. I chose for this guy to do that. I chose for this boss to fire me. I chose for this moment to happen. I chose for this dis-ease for me to experience, right? And it can be a lot energetically. You know, it can be a lot emotionally. Just like, whoa, I chose that? Woo! You know, because I think about, like, you know, I was having a conversation with my girlfriend, and I was like, I'm so worried about something happening to you, you know? And I just went into the future, and I just imagined something happening to her, and I chose this. I chose this, and I just dealt with those emotions, you know, because I think that's really the magic of that mantra, which I just constantly repeat to myself, is that all the emotions that come up are just showing me where I'm not free so that I can become free. You know? And, yeah. So to kind of recap the video, I would assert that you start living when you trust, you have faith, you surrender to the universe, to God, to whatever deity you believe in, to whatever you don't believe in. You know, you don't have to be religious or spiritual to adopt this perception. Which just reminded me of something which is so funny. If you can, you know, classify any group of individuals, there's usually a perception, right? If you look at Christians, there's usually a perception, right? So it's like, really, that's what we are. We're just collectives of perceptions. And then you can kind of find patterns in the way that people perceive things based on how they identify with themselves, right? It's like, oh, you identify with this, 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 and this. It's like the common perception for those people is this, you know? So it's an interesting thought that I just had. But yeah, if you could just, you know, understand and adopt that perspective, regardless of, you know, religious belief or spiritual, you know, viewpoint, and just try it on and see if it helps you, because that's what I'm about, really, is just finding frictionless perceptions that allow me to move through life and I would assert, live life, right? Try that on, right? That life is giving me everything I need, right? And you by the very act of you resisting it, you're not able to see what it's giving you because you're too focused on what you want, and it's not what you want. But it is what you want because it's what you need, which is going to help you get what you want, which is what you want. You understand? So, you know, understand that it's your father, that it's your mother, you know, that it's your God, that it's maybe you don't believe in anything, you know. Understand that it's just the universe or earth or whatever degree we need to go to for you to adopt a perceptive, let's go there and for you to adopt it, right? You know, because if it's frictionless, if it's frictionful, because if I say God, let's find something that's not frictionful for you, right? Because it's not about God to me, even though I believe that you are God, right? Regardless of my belief, let's go to a perception where you can adopt it so that you can see how you move through life. Just try it on, because perceptions are like clothes. You can change them. You know, if you listen to this video and you try it on, and you're like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that. You know, my life is, you know, this is happening now. It's like, change it. It's okay. Perceptions can be changed. You know, that's a cool thing about perception, which is, I feel like if the world understood, we'd be a lot more compassionate towards people, you know? Because it's like people aren't seeing you, they're seeing their perception on you. That's another story. But yeah, if you could just understand that, you could be a lot less resistant, and then you could actually start getting to where you want to go. And then it's so funny because once you understand that, you don't want to go anywhere. You just want to be where you're at. And then you end up going all of the places that you wanted to go, not wanting to go there anymore. Funny. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.